Moana is one of our favorite Disney princesses, but do you really know what happened to her? Make sure you watch this video until the end to know what Polynesian people think about this movie. If you love Moana as much as we do, don't forget to subscribe and please give this video a big thumbs up. Today, we are showing you the disturbing real story behind Moana. Who is Maui? While Moana isn't part of the Polynesian mythology, the Disney movie was actually inspired by another character, Maui. We can find this demigod in many cultures, but the creators decided to focus more on the Polynesian mythology. However, when they first looked at him, many people didn't recognize him. That's because Maui was supposed to be a slim young man, coming of age with a top knot on his head. We don't know what Disney did to him, but he ended up being huge and covered with tattoos, with long flowing hair on his shoulders. Actually, the animators first wanted Maui to be much thinner and bald, but they chose to change his physical appearance to make him look more heroic. Many people were upset with that choice, but we'll talk about this later. Maui's family looks really different too. In mythology, Maui actually had 4 brothers. He was also the son of a god and a mortal woman, making him a demigod, unlike what we see in the movie where he was abandoned by his parents and raised by a god. But just because he was a demigod doesn't mean that he was all good. Actually, the original story involved much violent stuff and things that should have only been seen by adults. This is why it was left out of the film that was meant to be seen by children. But there are actually some things that Maui can be proud of. What really happened? What did Maui do to be so popular in many cultures? The best known myth was that the demigod was the one who created the islands. It all started when Maui convinced his brothers to go on a fishing trip. But the demigod caught his magical fishing hook on the ocean floor. This was when he told his brothers that they should paddle as hard as they could because they had caught a big fish. They paddled so hard that they shored up several islands that would later make up the islands of Hawaii and many other islands. In another version of the story, he actually caught a huge fish, but his brothers opened it without his permission and it broke up into mountains, cliffs, and valleys. The legend says that if they had waited to open it, the islands would have been plain flat. One of his biggest accomplishments was also restraining the sun when he lassoed it with his sister's hair. He wouldn't let it go until the sun agreed to give them long days in the summer and short days in the winter. In the Hawaiian culture, Maui is also responsible for passing the secret of fire to humans. We actually hear about many of these stories in the song You're Welcome, but it was really easy to miss if you didn't know anything about the Polynesian culture. But no matter what, there are some things that Disney got right in this movie. What is right? Disney has often been accused of being insensitive with cultures, mostly when they turned Pocahontas' tragic story into a fairy tale. But this time, the creators wanted to make people proud. They've been interested in the demigod Maui, but Disney Animation Chief told them to go research before doing anything. This is why the creators went to Polynesia many times to meet a group of anthropologists, cultural practitioners, historians, linguists, and choreographers. These people helped them make sure that the story was accurate. This is why they deleted a scene where Moana threw a temper tantrum and hurled coconuts down on the sand, because it was considered to be extremely offensive. They are also the ones who said that Maui couldn't be bald, because that's where the power of the demigod came from. During their first trip, the creators also saw that Polynesian women were so beautiful that they should make the story about one of them. This is how Moana was created. Disney also cast Hawaiian voice actors who were encouraged to rewrite the lines to add more accurate Hawaiian slang. This is how there are some things that they actually got right. People love to see that Moana was a strong Disney princess who didn't need a prince. They took the time to show some Polynesian traditions, and they made sure that the community was the most important part of the story. But can we really forgive them after all the things they did wrong? What is wrong? When people learned that Disney was making a movie about a princess from a different origin, many people were getting ready to be offended. And one of the first things that shocked them was how Maui looked. As we have said before, the demigod was supposed to be a teenager on the verge of manhood, but he was illustrated as a kind of buffoon, and some people thought that he looked kind of stupid. Others were also offended by his size, as they said it perpetuated offensive images of Polynesians as overweight. Some people didn't even want their kids to watch the movie because of that. It just got worse when Disney created a costume of Maui featuring a tattooed body stocking. It is not a surprise that this brown face caused a big controversy. People also didn't like how coconuts were used as a caricature of Pacific people. It just got worse when they depicted a whole race of people, the Kakamora, as evil coconuts. But the problem is that, according to the legend, they were simply short-statured people of the Solomon Islands. Disney had no right to portray them like that. And let's not forget that coconut can also be a racial slur against people from the Pacific Islands. And these are only some of the things that offended them. What Polynesian people think. But what do Polynesian people have to say about this? Will Varner from BuzzFeed asked some of his friends to talk about Moana. When the movie came out, some of them were excited to see people like them on the big screen, while others were getting ready to be offended. But they did love a lot of things about the movie, like the grandma, the raw color and beauty of the islands, the songs, and the community. They also all agreed that their favorite character was Moana. However, there are still some things that they didn't like. It is not a surprise that many of them didn't like how Maui looked. One of them also noted that women couldn't become chief in the Tongan culture. Surprisingly, many of them didn't like the giant crab. And one also said that coconuts just aren't scary. But no matter what, if they could change one thing, that would probably be some voice actors or the sound of the choir. Oh, and one of them couldn't handle the chicken, and another still argued that women can't become chief. But overall, they had to admit that it wasn't that bad. What do you think about Moana? Do you think that Disney did a good job, or they should have stuck to the real story? Don't be shy to answer in the comment section down below. We love to hear what you think. And that's it for the disturbing real story behind Moana. If you liked this video,